It's been a little while since I last had a run out on Moose, my 790 Duke, so when my pal Mike invited me for a trip up to Applecross on the west coast, it seemed like the perfect excuse to dust him off, fire him up and head west for the day. I've done this route multiple times over the years, which meant I hadn't planned on recording the trip, but as usual I mounted the camera anyway. As we left Kishorn behind and headed out towards the cattle pass, I thought the Bealach was looking too good to miss today, and it was unusually quiet, so I decided to record the trip up over the top. The Bealach's always been a popular destination for those in the know, but since the naming of the NC 500 route, it's become even busier. It's not in the same league or scale as any of the famous European passes, but it's definitely different enough from our norm here in the UK to make it worth doing if you're up this way. These natural formations were gouged out by receding glaciers at the end of the last ice age, and at some time in the past there must have been some pretty impressive waterfalls. It would have looked and sounded incredible as the ice creaked and ground and smashed its way down onto the coast. The first official road was built over the cattle pass in 1822, and from the nick of the road surface up until very recently you'd think that they were still riding the original tar macadam. As I said, it's not that extreme when you compare it to some of the ski roads and passes elsewhere in the world, but if you don't like heights, it might still freak you out a little. I know that my wife can't relax even in a car if she's on the side of the barrier. As it turned out, a few little things cropped up along that small stretch of road, giving me the inspiration to make this video. How to survive the Bealach na Ba. I know, it's a bit clickbaity and I'm sorry for the title, but I thought that the algorithm might like it a little more than another biker rides his motorcycle over the hill. The thing with the Bealach is that it covers most of what you're likely to encounter while riding or driving up this way. The pass just condenses any issues due to the natural bottleneck created by the topography. They've been working hard laying thick new tar during the evenings and throughout the night, trying to get it finished. Already it's made the pass much less daunting to tackle on two wheels. Before that it wasn't much fun to negotiate the dodgy cambers, potholes, slick wet bitumen and loose gravel. Saying that, Moose's glitchy throttle doesn't exactly help in the hairpins, and the clutch lever got a severe workout as I juddered through them. Stupidly, I'd also left them in sports mode for the ascent. The hairpins are nice and wide and you can generally see what's coming long before you get to them, but not this one at the top. Thankfully my sixth sense had kicked in and I had stayed inside the corner instead of going wide to see through it. Mike thought I was getting T-boned for sure. It was much closer than it looks in camera. Be careful around the summit car park. It's a bit of a free-for-all and it's not unusual to find a motorhome doing a U-turn or tourists walking about in the middle of the road. This downhill section was quite daunting before. It's fantastic now. It used to be quite rutted and potholed, and at least now you can steal a glance at the scenery instead of looking for the next hazard. Now there's none around today, but it's not unusual to find sheep or cattle sleeping or wandering around the roads and verges in the Highlands. They're quite used to the traffic, and so long as you don't startle them with a loud exhaust or revving your engine and you slow down a bit, you can keep moving forward and they'll usually get out of your way. Most of the time, if they behave erratically, it's because it's a lamb or a young calf. Applecross itself has an unmanned community-owned petrol pump, so if you don't stop in Loch Carron, you don't need to panic and you can fuel up here. Over the wall behind the filling station is a small car park, and it's next to the public toilets. You can access those for a small fee, and they do accept card payments. We'd planned to eat on the seafront at the Applecross Inn, but it wasn't open until 3 PM, so we looked elsewhere. They also operate the Applecross Inn outside, which is situated across the road and operates from an Airstream style caravan. Panic over, I had previously eaten at the walled garden at the end of the bay. Funnily enough, it's set in a walled garden and the food there is always top notch. Another option is the Applecross bothy. Now, I've never actually tried it, I only found it on Google Maps afterwards, but after reading the reviews, I certainly will be giving it a try. Bikes and bodies refueled, we're going to head back up over the pass. Mike did try signalling advice to this fella, but looking at his reaction, I think he got the wrong end of the stick. Don't tailgate or bunch up behind other vehicles. You may be able to squeeze 2 or 3 small cars or motorcycles into the average passing place, but if we're doing that in both directions, it likely means that at some point someone is going to have to reverse back. Keep checking your mirrors and let any faster vehicles pass. Not everyone is a tourist and taking in the views for the first time. Now there we go, this is what I was talking about. Not looking ahead and planning. And now people are bunching up. Throw a mic into the mix and things get all foobar pretty quickly. And now we're off with no mirror checks. Right, just be patient, be patient. All of this talk is brought to mind an old public service advert that used to play on TV when I was a kid. If you're Scottish and grew up in the 70s or 80s, you'll more than likely remember it. It has a young Bill Patterson doing a folk style country rap about how to use a passing place, and it looks like it was filmed at Loch Marie and Torridon somewhere, so not too far from where we are at the moment. I'll link it above and you can give it a watch. Most kids used to be able to sing along with it back then. I'll tell you, watching it makes me feel so old. This parking area at the summit looks out over the Isle of Raasay, and beyond that you can see the Coolins on the Isle of Skye. It's not every day that you can make them out though. Quite often you can be in mist or low clouds up here, and at times it can get seriously windy. Right then, so now that Mike has finished snapping his bike again, we'll head off back down the pass towards Kishorn. I'll leave the camera running so that you can enjoy the views and listen to me riding the living daylights out of my clutch on the way down. As ever, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.